pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. would you please call the roll?
Sure. Darcy Kaplan?
Here.
Angela Brown? Here. Jenny Sos? Tara Shields?
Here.
Jasper Dickersford?
Here.
Keith Gosha?
Here.
Ray Armstrong?
Here.
If you would, please silence your cell phone. Our meeting is not as interrupted. Lisa, and I'll read the adopted policy since we have some guests. It is the adopted policy of the Berlin Township Zoning Commission. Each applicant or agenda item will be given 10 minutes or discretion of the chairperson to make a formal presentation. The chair will allow questions from the commission members in order to provide a timely and orderly discussion of business for consideration. Finally, the audience will then be given up to 3 minutes or at the discretion of chairperson for each speaker to respond. Chairperson may limit repetitive debate, and all comments from the audience must be addressed to the chairperson. Lisa, can you please verify that our meeting is recorded?
Yes. In the August 10th, 2024 Delaware Gazette.
We have meeting minutes from our previous meeting on July 23rd, which everybody got a chance to review. I accept a motion to approve those minutes, please.
Make a motion to approve BCC minutes, meeting minutes, July 23rd, 2024.
Do we have a second? I'll second.
Mr. Dickersford?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Ms. Shields? Were you absent?
Did you get you were not here, but did you get to read them?
You can approve them even if you weren't here, yeah. You can vote yes if you want. Yes. Let's see, Ms. Brown?
Yes.
And Mr. Gosha?
Stand up and go through that.
All right, that motion passes. So we do have 2 applicants in this evening. However, our first one is an informal with MI Homes. Because we think that length is going to be on the roof side, we're going to flip this a little bit and hear our informal from MI Homes first. And thank you guys for allowing us to make that change. So, MI Home representative, if you'd like to go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Andy Osborne with MI Homes. It's nice to see you on something other than a Berlin Farm West final development plan. This evening, we wanted to come in and really get some collaborative feedback on a new project that we have been working on for the last few months. I had the opportunity to meet with both of the zoning inspectors and the fire chief a few weeks ago, really to kick off the process, and got good feedback from Jerry and Levi coming out of that meeting, and made a few tweaks even as we lead up to what's in front of you today. This site is a really unique site in that it's kind of at the northeast corner of the township, and is really a natural transition from some of the other subdivisions that are in Berkshire Township as you start to make your way southwest towards the business park. But obviously you're all very familiar with, but I included the overall plan to give really some regional context to where the site is located. It's also a unique site in that the natural features of it are, it's got some beautiful terrain. It has Allen Creek on its western boundary, kind of along the southeast, kind of going on a 45-degree angle. There's a 20 to 30 foot ravine that really disconnects it from what's happening down on 36, 37. And really, once you're on the site, it's isolated from all the other properties that are around it because of the natural features. As I mentioned, it is included in the Berlin business overlay, and so because of that, it's permitted up to 10 units per acre on portions of the site, or it can be up to 300 apartments. As MI looked at it, our first inkling, just knowing the overlay and the approved density, we looked at packing a bunch of townhomes in there. And as we started looking at the site and really starting to figure out what would be the best fit for both MI and the township, we really pivoted and thought that something with less density and freestanding condos would really be the better approach to this. And so what's in front of you on the second page is a site plan that has 113 freestanding condos that comes out to a density of 3 units per acre and 54% open space. And so given what is permitted under the overlay, we think that this is really a downzoning and an appropriate fit for this site. And there's really no bad lots when we look at all of the houses backing up to the natural features. We have huge buffers to all of the adjacent property owners. The overlay is a mixed-use development at a very large scale, and we think that this is an appropriate kind of component of the different housing options that over the coming years you're going to start to see more applications come in for on the overlay. And with that, we're excited and really just wanted to come in and get some collaborative feedback and talk about kind of next steps and what we can do to gain your approval at our next meeting.
Anybody want to start? Questions?
I can start. Are these, you're looking for, do you have a similar product out there right now that is a neighborhood that you have that you're going right now that's similar to this?
It's in Liberty Township, right next to Olentangy, Liberty High School, so it's Sawmill and Home Road. It's called Liberty Green.
Thank you. And what is the price point you're use?
Every time we commit to that, just like
I
Roman
know.
Farm, it goes up. But we would expect these to be what would be in the
400.
400s is kind of where we would see this in the sweet spot.
So what is the size of these that the size properties that you chose? So what the floor plans?
Of the floor plans, they range from about 1,600 for the ranch up to 2,400 square feet for the bigger ones once you add on all the different options.
Okay. Are they going to have basements?
They will not have basements. The topography on this site is extreme, and so because of that, basements just would be a very appropriate fit for that.
All right. So with that, I do like that you have a walking path in here, but I would encourage you, I love all the green space. I do love all the green space. I love that you're protecting the properties around. I would love to see some actual amenities in here though. And it doesn't have to be, with that said, it's not that we want every neighborhood to have a top lot, right? But, because not every neighborhood needs a top lot. But what I would like to see is, making sure that we have places for residents to convene. So, right here, as I'm quickly looking at this, I'm not seeing anywhere where people can be. I'm seeing a cool walking path that's towards the front that you could park at right there. But really, some park space that people could hold gatherings. It doesn't have to be like a pickleball court or a basketball court or anything like that, but just amenities, things for people to actually do. I think so my family and I have gone to several picnics in the past couple of weeks, right, with friends from other neighborhoods. We don't personally live in a neighborhood, but friends from other neighborhoods, and they have spaces, and when they don't have spaces, that's where neighborhoods feel it is like, we want to have a gathering for the neighborhood. It has to be at someone's house then. So I think that as we're filling out neighborhoods, making sure that there's those common areas where people feel like it can be an actual community, and it's not just a bunch of houses with sidewalks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really good feedback. I appreciate that.
And I think you would be able to, push some. What we like to see is that it's not just off to one side too, if it's actually incorporated closer to the center of the neighborhood, so that it's not that it's convenient for a couple of houses, but then everyone else has to walk a distance to get there. So it's nice when it's more centralized. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
That's my biggest call over here. I think overall, I love I love that they're not even shared wall ones, because that gives a very different perception, to people as they're even trying to, look at different homes for sale, I'll tell you. And it gives a different perception of buyers as they're looking at houses that are sitting near these. So I do like that you brought the density down. I can tell you from this overall, I don't love that there's condos, but I do know that that's where we have to put some. And I just want to see some more useful space.
Thank you for that.
So I'm assuming it looks like they're all front-loaded garages.
That's correct.
The streets are pretty narrow. Are they gonna be on-street parking allowed, or there's very little parking?
Yeah,
That
you can see it's very faint. There's some white on-street parking that's marked in there.
right, very little. Maybe 15 of them.
We got,
I guess these little hash marks.
yeah, right when you pull in, we got some at the top. We tried to space them out throughout the development. Each house will also have, obviously, the driveway for 2 cars. So each house will have 4 parking spots per house, plus the additional guest parking that's been provided.
And they all the same exact model, or they're 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom,
They're 3 and 4 bedrooms, so a combination, depending on which options.
square footage was?
1,600 to 2,400 square feet. So we'll have 5 different floor plans for people to choose from.
Jerry likes to silo, there's no sideways on this at all. I mean, you could do a couple on the corners to break it up a little bit. I don't know if that's your floor plan would even take us.
It does not.
Sorry, Jerry. Moving for you there.
Thanks for trying, Pete.
So, yeah, I mean, I imagine this whole area is the topology is just too impossible to build anything that's too steep. So, and that trail is not here, you would be putting in hard surface or rock.
We still have to do further engineering to understand grades and all that to figure out the world possible.
Yeah, that is, something that have to deal with.
Thank you for your comments.
I like these neighborhoods. It was our first house we built was a freestanding condo. So, I mean, I think they serve a really good purpose for, couples as they're moving in, or just, somebody that's a growing family, and even rentals sometimes. There's need for it, definite need for it, but I like Angela said, that density's down. It's not a bunch of apartments or townhomes stacked on each other. The same thing she said, just throwing in, I noticed this little center island right
That's
there.
exactly what I was on.
Just like a little shelter house. I know she said not everybody needs a tot lot or likes, has to have a tot lot, but ours did. And I mean, so many kids just would run over and just play on it, for a short period of time, and we're able to go back to their house. It's a nice place for moms to get out and meet at the park and then go home, at nap time. And, but I mean, I like the layout. I like the kind of seclusion into Elm Creek, and the trail will be nice for people who want to walk. And I think it's a great idea for that area.
Thanks for your feedback.
Couple of questions. You mentioned sales, they're all sales, no rentals, just to confirm. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily show, were there any thoughts of a clubhouse, or is there like a model, or how are you planning anything along
So we
those
can
lines?
build a model home,
Okay.
probably plus 1, 2, or 3. For a clubhouse, just with 113 units, it kind of is on the burden on the homeowners to upkeep that is too small. Where at Berlin Farm, for example, we have hundreds of homes, that's where it starts to make more sense. So we considered it like kind of on that lesser density, just 115 isn't enough really to justify the cost, but also the long-term expense for the residents.
Okay, that's fine. Heights, you mentioned ranch, is it 2-story and also 3-story, or just ranch 2-story?
Ranch and 2 stories, they'd all be less than 35 feet.
And then I agree with the others. I like the green space, trying to use the topography that's there. knowing that area, it's got some steep ravines, and it'll be a very interesting layout. As far as the path, I might recommend kind of extending it and trying to maybe connect it on the other side.
So that has a huge drop there, so so this is basically going up and kind of to a
To a platform, and then the ravine comes where your lawns are.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, so that's,
You can't really tell that in there, but okay.
yeah, obviously when we come in for our full submission, we'll have more grading plans and other things that'll give you some further context for that.
But yeah, I mean, other than, I think the amenity side, I mean, the trail is nice, but if you could do something that is kind of a gathering spot. I mean, I like the layout, I like the density usage, obviously. The condos, I think it is a good differentiator with what we have, the square footage especially. It seems like we're getting a lot of bigger homes, not so much kind of that, I won't say starter homes, but something that is more amenable to, a starting couple. They don't necessarily need 5,000 square feet right off the bat. So I think this fits that market, and it fits definitely a demographic that probably we could fit in. So, and I don't have anything else.
Thanks for your feedback.
So I am not familiar with this property. I've driven by it. I guess I didn't pay much attention. Is it all wooded right now? Is
So
it?
from the road, all you see is trees. Once you get back, I imagine there was a time that it was farmed, but you can tell it's now been many years since it's been farmed, so random trees. But when you get back to this area, more or less is clear. We've tried to preserve from our plan the natural features.
Makes sense. I do like the green space. I like that there's some usable trails, and I would concur that it is nice to have some kind of gathering space, not necessarily elaborate, as you pointed out. We don't want to upkeep that for a long time. So, there's not much parking, but as you said, there are 4 spaces allotted basically per unit. And are there any utility easements or anything on this property? There are no power lines, anything like that?
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I appreciate the density and the approach that you're taking, that you didn't necessarily have to max it out, so that's wonderful.
So I have one more question. Far up to the north, where you have parking on there.
Yeah.
Is that going to be another entry or exit into another subdivision?
Yeah, that was just a T turnaround so that for people getting in and out of that parking area, they're able to.
So
There's also a ravine there too.
yeah, so one in, one out, or is it?
Yeah, so that's when we talked to the fire. So we have the path that runs behind lots 1 through 6. That's an emergency access. So that gets the fire truck their second point of access to the site. So that was one of the things that we worked with.
Okay, I'm trying to make sure wildfires happen, people get out of course.
So are you saying that those would be like bullets across there?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when we met with Jerry and I met with the fire department, that they had very specific, give you the packet of all the things that we have to do to meet their standards. So we'll obviously comply with everything they need.
Do you have any possible name that you're considering?
Open to feedback. We're terrible at names.
Just not up Berlin. Berlin, yeah, Berlin, Oak Pines, just try to go outside that.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry, Ray.
another member as well.
Question regarding the private or public?
Private.
Any thoughts of connecting the two with a path out to the road so that in the future, if there's any connectors or path out, a connector or path for the future?
Potentially, yeah. The topography,
It's awesome.
yeah, that's exactly. And it will get further than engineering hard, more possible, but that's a good point.
Just possible for the future.
Yeah.
Some of the other, like the private property that's at the northeast corner, is that protected by topography, or do you need to do anything there as far as isolating this?
I don't know the topography, I will look at that.
Please do. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ray. I'm sorry I missed back there.
Sorry.
Anything else?
Todd's kicking me under the podium, so you gave me my 10 minutes.
Back
Thank you very much for the report, CBC.
Appreciate it, guys. All right. Formal and agreement on to our relationship. And that is BZC 24-006, 7 LLC, here of South Glory. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Maybe, okay. 577 Woodard Greenway, West Center. Applicant is requesting approval of the preliminary development in zone, parcel 418-310-01-047-000, plus or minus 61.039 acres. Farm residential FR1 to R3 planned residential R3 PRD. 89 single-family homes, 2338 Cheshire Road, Delaware, Ohio. 4.5 in subdivision known as 7 Hills. So, do we have a presenter?
Good evening, Todd Ferris of Ferris Planning and Design, 4876 Cemetery Road, Liberty, Ohio. Sarah Sanders is with me also from my company, Nat Gergen. The Terrain Evolution, the civil engineer, is here as well to present this application to you tonight. We do have a PowerPoint presentation. Since I went and bought this thing, we're going to use it every time now, right? What do you mean, show?
I'm having trouble getting the clicker to work.
Because you got to do it from behind.
I was thinking it's from the front. Yeah, that's perfect.
That's very nice.
Well, plus you also have PowerPoint.
It is the PowerPoint, you have to go up to the digital button. They're there, and then you start sending.
So I usually bring it in.
This is just a copy.
Okay. Well, maybe I won't follow the PowerPoint, it's just easier for me to make stuff up. Anyway, so a little bit of history. There isn't a whole lot of history on this. We brought this informally to Jerry, I think right around Christmas. He was in Florida when I first contacted him, and he was having a good time and all that kind of stuff. And then he came back for us, and we were excited that he could do that. And we showed him a plan that kind of had a little bit of commercial in the front, maybe like a daycare, so maybe something on the street, things like that. And he spoke with myself and the client that it's probably best that we just follow the comprehensive plan in this area, look at the appropriate lot sizes, look at the correct density, and ask for as few divergences as possible. Let me tell you, I don't know how, I think it's easier to ask for divergences than try to not to have them. It's serious. It was difficult. It was difficult. But anyways, so the site I'm sure you're familiar with, right up over down the street from us. Looks like we've got a lot of people here tonight too. My guess is they're representing the temple as well, and it's just north of that, and it's that Bacon Farm Field is just north of them, and kind of just south of that newly torn down house that I believe was taken by the county. Yeah, so they bought it. The county owns it according to the auditor's website, so that's now vacant, and that's underneath where it says road in the Cheshire Road. But here's the site. Just kind of a look at the comprehensive plan, what it says. We're in planning area 8, suburban heart. We're west of Pike Road, south of Cheshire. Plan recommends PRD R3 zoning. I don't know why it says 20,000 square foot lots at a density of 1.85 because the code is 10,890, I believe, square feet lots at 1.85. Net developable with sewer. We do have sewer. It was brought over with Maid Meadows, so that would be our connection to the sewer. So we fall into that range of 1.85 MDA with the R3 standards. This is kind of a black and white, you can't see it, but the important thing about this
is that you start seeing the lot sizes. 10,890 is the minimum. I think our minimum square footage is 10,960. And then we go up to 20,000 and something and some change. And I'll get more into details of what is where and why we did it in the future and further in the presentation. So here's the site plan. We have one main entry that aligns with May Meadows, McKenna Drive, off of Pyatt, and we also have an emergency access with fire. Since we have over 30 units, we need two needs of egress. The fire department, I think you've seen some of that correspondence as reviewed all this stuff. That location was actually recommended to us by the county themselves because it was far enough out of the roundabout that it made sense, and it would suffice and does all that. So that's why we got that fire location at that area. Internally, we have a few things that we have to deal with. We have a railroad track. Yeah, railroad track. We have a power line easement. We got Cheshire Road. We got Pike Road. Then we've got the temple to the south, which actually we're excited about. We have provided buffers to the exterior of this because of those reasons. Obviously we've stayed it pretty much as far back from the railroad as we can. Obviously stayed out of the power line easement without any lots in there even. I know some people sometimes squeeze lots into those. We didn't do any of that here. We kept it out of it. And really aggregated our open space at the front entry, kind of celebrated the stuff at the roundabout, and in the pond areas. And one of the reasons that we did that is because of what's happening in the meadows across the street. Their open space is actually across it, and this is kind of a bookend that we have. So we'll have the fencing that's the same over there. So we'll tie into this, even though it's totally separate developments, there will be a continuity between the two in the township, which I think will be a nice look. So total acres, I can't read this, 61 acres, net developable 47.81. Total units is 89. We're at 1.86 units per acre. That is one of the versions that we're asking for. And our open space is 23.4 acres at 38.3% open space. Lot sizes, minimum 80 feet at the right of way, because your code says right of way, not the build line. We can always ask for divergence to that. We're not asking for divergence. We've got 80 feet at the right of way, okay? Even on the curved lots. And one thing you'll notice is that the lots to the south here are considerably larger. Number one, they're deeper because we have a 50-foot setback adjacent on the properties. So the build line is set 50 feet back so that they actually just get a larger rear yard on that. But these are seen as potential lots for people that actually want to live next to the town. There is, I think, a segment of folks that want to live there because that is seen as a positive for them. Let's go to the next thing. So our net density is slightly over at 1.86. Overall open space, again, I wanted to get into this in a little bit more detail because I know somebody's going to ask how much is in the power lines and how much is in the ponds, because I've been asking a lot of times. So we figured it out for you, so we don't have to come back for that. So open space provided minus the ponds and easements is 15.03 acres, 24.6% still. So we're still over the 20%. It looks like a lot of ponds, and it is a lot of ponds, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that you guys have no good drainage outlets in this area. So our detention requirements are greater, we just have to deal with it. But we're doing that, and we're still fulfilling the 20% in green space, not just ponds. Park enlargements, kind of just want to start looking at that and how it mimics what we're doing across the street. Here's the house. infamous house that we had to come back for, that didn't have the side load garage or something silly, and then the park that they have there with the tot lot, the walking paths, and the community pavilion. We have emulated that to a certain degree. We have that same similar type of layout. One thing we've incorporated that's a little bit more is we have a pond lookout up north of here. We're actually using this as partial walkway. It's not going to be used by emergency vehicles, hopefully ever. It's blocked both ends at the parking lot and here. And that will be per whatever your fire department says, whether it's bollards, whether it's gates. I know they all have their own requirements. We'll comply to that. The only portion that does get used is the section that we pulled off of the main street to put the mailboxes. Because Ron just keeps telling me over and over and over again, have it off the street. So what we have done, based off of some commentary that we actually received from our civil engineer who's done another project like this, is we've been able to get dual function out of that emergency drive, to have parking off of that with the mail kiosk. So, yeah, a lot of activity can happen in this area. We have our gazebo, or pavilion, whatever you call it, our tot lot with seating areas and benches along this. We have mounding with fencing along here and here, which defines that open space, keeps the kids off of the roadway. Now we have a seating area to the north, and we have the mail. So we've got a lot of activities going on in there. Plus, we're screening it with shade trees and things like that to minimize the views of the home, so you actually see and celebrate the open space more so in the houses at that location. And we have a different sign. Client wanted a different sign than we normally see. So this is I like to call it Taco Rock. and you'll see, or maybe it's Toast Rock, I don't know. But anyway, it's a nice, elegant sign. That's basically a rough cut limestone slab that they sandblast the name into it. Usually epoxy fill it with black, so it stands out, and then the rest is just a masonry base with columns. And it'll have shielded up lights on each side that illuminate that. Again, I don't know if the details show very well, but we have that fencing that will continue down the frontage, come around here, come down here. So any of these public spaces, the homes are separated from them. We also bring the fencing down the main entry to the first lot, so we have that theme that comes here, and then we stop at this location, which really ties in and actually goes down to the temple, ties in with what Pulte homes. Wanted to go over the regional planning comments and discuss these a little bit. Some of them I totally agree with, some of them I scratch my head. Let's see, the first one's net developable. 1.85 units per acre allows 88.45 units. So in effect, we're asking for a divergence of 0.55 units to get up to that. Again, that's obviously up to you guys. We have provided open space. We've amenitized it to a certain degree, and we haven't gone crazy with extra lines. But we're still kicking out that fun stuff. So in my mind, is that a trade-off? I don't know, but in my mind, I think that's justified for a half a lot for the stuff that we're putting out there voluntarily. Yeah, but they recommend that we take a lot out and put some open space in the center. Our math again, 88.45 units, we're asking for 89. Slight divergence in the density to get us to that whole unit. By, not in exchange for the tot lot, but we are providing some amenities that I think are nice for the community. The second one is that zoning resolution supports, so they were trying to get into the fact that provide open space use to as many homes as possible as designed. As designed, only 41% of the lots have open space. Well, relating to natural topography, this is flat. I think we are relating to it. The open space views, we really don't have any. We've got a railroad track, and we have a temple, and we have corn, and we've got power. So I think we've responded to those as much as we can. And your code doesn't state that we need to have over 50%, right? And just as many as possible. So that's kind of where my contention is with the regional planning's comment on that is, yeah, you want us to get rid of a lot to put an open space in the middle, but is that really doing anything? And the code, I think, in my opinion, doesn't say that we have to do that. It's just something that we and we're distributed around the edges, but not internally. Again, we have larger lots. We could go down to 10,890 on all the lots that have little open pockets in the center that people don't own. And everybody owns it and they know it, or it can be in their backyards. I mean, it's that simple. It really is. So what we did is we put it in the lots, the larger lots. Okay, more things on potential divergences that they picked out of the code. It requires a 10-foot buffer on a residential zone property adjoining to commercial use. Lots 33 to 41 are adjacent to the religious temple to the south, which is considered a commercial use. Required landscaping on this in this buffer includes 1 tree per 40 linear feet. There are 23 total trees with a continuous 6-foot high planting, hedge, fence, wall, or earthy mound. Staff comments, no buffer or landscaping is provided in this area, which overlooks a large parking lot and 2 commercial structures. With no hardship identified by the applicant, staff believes this requirement would be met. So I guess this is another point that I have contention on. Maybe it's classified a commercial use, but they're not buying or selling anything there. It's a religious institution. They're allowed in every residential zone in the township, in the country, actually, just because it's a religious use. And the temple is zoned FR1. We can have residential homes there today. We can actually had residential homes where this cornfield was before the Waywood zone, and they didn't have a buffer. So the question is, should they have buffered when they came in? Did that get missed? Or vice versa? And so that's kind of where I'm leaning to is this really needed? Is it really commercial? And the fact that I'm pretty sure we got buyers that want to be there, that want to look over this temple, and we're going to hide it from them. It is another contention that we have. So I should just leave it at that. I have some other examples. These are just things, and you guys probably, wherever you grew up and everything else, how many churches have you seen that are buffered from everything else? They're not. I mean, these are just different things that are around. That technically would fall into this category that we need to buffer, that aren't. And so Sarah researched a few of these different things and showed what was there. Most of them are just old tree lines, which you would expect next to a church, right? But they were newly installed, so that went in. So regional planning thinks that we need to ask for a divergence or do that. I don't think it's even a divergence, and that's not even required. Now, their other comment, and we just missed going up to this, was required landscaping between residential zone property and a railroad. 1 tree per 30 linear feet. Continuous 6-foot high planting, hedge wall, or earth mound. We had this area, and just since well, I missed it. I missed it. So what we're doing and what we're proposing tonight is that we continue that buffer on this side of the easement with the 6-foot mound with all those trees and evergreen trees that can fill that in there. So we don't have to ask for a divergence because it makes sense to have a buffer there. That way those homes aren't looking at the railroad track. And then we can fulfill that requirement. We've overlapped the 2 buffers as much as we can given the constraints of the railroad. So if there is a buffer there, it just isn't right behind the lots. It's closer to the railroad track now. The slideshow's finished. So, again, divergences, the density. Slight increase in the density, 1.86, or a half a unit. Is really the only one that I think that we're asking for. Kind of leave that up to you guys on the commercial classification of the church and how we deal with that. I don't think we have any problems with putting some sort of buffer there to denote something, whether it's the trees, like the shade trees or something. But to block the view of that, I think is not in the interest of the people that are probably looking to buy those lots. With that, I think I'm finished with my presentation. And want to do questions.
All right, for those of you in the audience, we do typically have folks here on the commission make comments and ask questions, and then we will have time to open that up for audience participation when we do that. So your turn is coming. But Karen, do you want to start with questions?
Sure. I'm gonna go next. I want to read.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, as I looked through it, I liked a lot of what was there. A couple of comments I had. I do think you need some sort of buffer on that southwest property. I'm not saying it needs to be a 6-foot mound or anything, but I think just open is problematic because you can't guarantee who's going to buy it.
Sure.
So from that perspective, I think you need to at least plan as though something is needed. It doesn't necessarily have to be complete view blocking, but I think there should be something there as opposed to just grass. If you really are looking to kind of market it towards that neighbor of being the temple, I did notice in your packet, one of your very early designs actually had a sidewalk that went down towards there. One of the things that kind of goes in line with that, you've got your open space, but you don't really have divergences, but I kind of have some problems in the way things are laid out and so compacted at the front. I like it, and it's probably not a good term, but it's some window shopping. I drive by and oh, look at that green space, and I drive in, it's just house. So there's no breaking up kind of the houses. I think even trying to utilize, it was brought up, I think, by our zoning inspector, that easement, and potentially trying to bring your kind of multi-use path along the back edge of that property and kind of encircling and maybe tying it back into the opening at the cul-de-sac and trying to create more of a unified ability to use the whole property instead of just that little quadrant right in front. And I think that's it. You mentioned your open space and you've got it, but when I look at it and say, what can I use? I look at it and I say, I've got that one little spot. I mean, yes, you have your detention ponds and everything else, but it's all focused in that one small area where you have your top lot and the shelter. And outside of that, there's a little bit of walking path, but it's open space that there's nothing usable about it. Even if it's green and it's grass, it's open, but there's not really any trying to use it for any better purpose than it's open. I do have concern. I mean, the one lot thing, would I like to see it not have a divergence? Yes. Do I think you could potentially utilize that maybe around that, I think it's like 28? Yeah. Where could you get a lot in that back, in that corner down by the cul-de-sac and maybe open up a little space there for another smaller gathering space? Right by the cul-de-sac in the back, right there.
Or there's a little bit of.
Yeah, could you take a lot back in there that isn't one of your deep lots, obviously, because you won't want to get rid of that. But could you open up something there, create another smaller gathering area where now it's not, to regional planning's perspective, it's not all isolated right there in front. If you could create another smaller, small gathering space, which would be roughly about the same as the front, doesn't have to be a top lot, it could be a different type of usage. But then you tie it together with the walking path. Now you've got usability where it's walking path or biking or rollerblading or whatever, but you also have an amenity for all the folks that are in the back, all the way tucked in the back, where they don't have to drive through the neighborhood or walk through the neighborhood to get to the top lot in front. So you have more than one usable space for the development as a whole. Just because when I look at it, I say, yes, you're close on your density, but that's a lot of houses to say the only real amenity towards them is that one top lot and that one little shelter. It just seems light from that perspective. And that's why I think if you try to utilize a little space in the back, add a little bit more walkability, I think you can kind of try to create some flow across the whole property as a whole.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So, that one, within the shelter, you kind of, that was existing there, they mentioned like a picnic table. I might like to see, I mean, obviously more than one. The 25 by 25 shelter is a big shelter. So just a single picnic table doesn't really, again, it goes back to that, I got 89 houses. I'm gonna assume I've got 3-4 people a house. One picnic table that holds 6 people is probably going to be problematic, and I get more than one family that wants to go up to the top. So seating becomes an issue with just that low a number. You've got some benches and other things there, but obviously at top lot, you get people that kind of stick around a little longer and just don't want to leave. So I would like to see, even in your initial plan, some ideas on types of housing. You mentioned kind of the outdoor appearances and the materials that you use. I think you hit in that you would meet the requirement of the square footage, but I couldn't find any real language that said like the size of house, ranch, 2-story basement. Like there was really no specifics at all about what you're building in there. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a final plan of this, these 5 housing plans or anything like that, but to give us an idea of, because it does make an impact if you say, I'm putting 1,600 square foot houses on these really big lots, or if you come in and say, I want to try and build 6,500 square foot houses on these lots, like that impacts the types of amenities because it impacts the number of people that are expected to be there. Sure. So it's not just square footage when I think of amenities, it's also the size of the domiciles, because I want to know, if you're going to have 10,000 people on here, then okay, one top lot isn't doing it. You can't commit to a number, but based on square footage, we can kind of infer how many people are going to be there. I did like your CBU idea. I think that is a pretty slick way to do it. Hopefully Ron will like it, because I like using that, but still blocking off from a security standpoint to emergency access, but giving it off-street parking that doesn't impact your normal road flow. That's a good way to do it, I think. So I'm hopeful that they like it, the trustees like it as well, because I like it. I do appreciate the fact that you're trying to kind of emulate Pulte on the other side with the appearances, the fences, kind of signage, some other things, where it gives a little bit more flavor. Obviously not all these developments are done by the same person, but it doesn't necessarily point out that it's, developer A, developer B, and they're just completely different styles. Right. The housing kind of estimated floor plans or out exterior designs though goes into that. Obviously you come in and start putting a bunch of things in like Tuscan style houses, it's going to look a little strange with farmhouse styling on the entrance and what's next to it. So that's again why I asked for that. And yeah, I think I mentioned the sidewalk or kind of that temple access and tying into other walkways. I like that you added the railroad buffer. I was going to ask about that. And really, I think that was it. So I do agree. I think you need a little bit more usable green space. I'm not completely sold it has to be like dead center, centrally located, but I think you've got some space in kind of the backside of the property that you can do something there and kind of fulfill that same concept where now I've got more than one space for the neighborhood, so they don't all funnel towards one little area. And I say that just because you've got the walking paths, but like your retention ponds, other than a walkway in front, there's no real, like, it's green space, it's there, but there's no usage to it because you got like one little overlook, and it just seemed to me like all of the amenities you were trying to kind of sell and show as being usable were right there, just in like lots 1 to 6. And I'm like, that for an 89 unit development, it just doesn't fit for me to kind of say that lot 1 through 6 get the amenities, everybody else has to walk, or do their own thing. So that is it. I mean, obviously you didn't have a lot of divergences, so everything else checked out.
What do you got?
I just wanted to reread. So my big concern is, one, kind of like he said, is protecting, like, I know you'll have potential buyers that know what they're getting into when they buy those lots on the south. You know, they know that they're buying next to a temple. But that path going back to that temple is so long, and with that parking lot there, like, what added security is there for those houses? And also that being a particular use area, like it says, any property in any zone adjoins the following or vice versa. Any vehicular use areas on any adjacent property is 1 tree, 40-foot boundary and vehicular area plus 3-foot average height continuous planting, hedge, fence, wall, or earthbound. So that to me is where you're getting that, what it says in the resolution as far as what you're required for that buffer. Because I'm thinking people are pulling into that parking lot, they're shining lights directly in the back of somebody's windows. Now, granted, if they don't like that, they could plant trees, you know, but at the same time, I think that that's the, you know, kind of one of those boundary areas and perimeter restrictions that, you know, I think needs to be put into place, just, you know, for security purposes, for privacy, for, you know, that would be one thing that I think is really important for future buyers too, you know, and not just who's gonna immediately buy when this is developed. And the same thing for the temple, and, you know, if way down the road somebody buys that may not, vice versa, like it the other way around, you know, and they're blaring music and the temple hears their music, you know, they may not like that either. So just for, you know, protection on both sides. I was kind of trying to figure out the pathway because it stops up at the top north corner.
Yeah,
Is that supposed to connect to something?
I don't know. I mean, your master plan just kind of just shows them on the sides of the roads. The right of way actually starts kicking out because of the overpass, so I'm just following the right of way at that point.
Because I'm thinking, like, if this is gonna be a path that potentially like a multi-use path that
Yeah.
the public can take, but then it comes back down and it's going behind a fence in your neighborhood, is that something that the residents are gonna want public to be able to access and walk down through the neighborhood?
Probably not, but
By
it's really hard to keep them from doing that.
Yes.
I mean, it is.
But I just didn't know if the multi-use path should be on the outside of the fencing.
Well, our fencing up here does stop, I think, down at.
It's
down
hard
at this, it is hard to see it here. It comes down here and I think it stops.
So it comes here, it's still on the outside,
Yeah.
on the outside, on
Yeah,
the
so,
outside.
so
on the
once we get to
outside.
here, there's.
It stops here.
Well, then it comes in.
Yeah, and so I was just thinking that, like, if you kind of made it so it if the multi-use path stays on the outside and then jogs in at your entrance, maybe that would help connect, you know, the neighborhood, because it's supposed to be kind of a neighborhood hub, as in what regional planning wanted this to be, you know, and since it's not gonna be the township hall that they were, or
Yeah.
township center that they were hoping for.
Well, it's for sale.
I know.
The one thing about, it's funny, because when we did the Pulte, we had the multi-use trail on the outside of the fence towards the street. I don't remember if it was the planning commission or the trustees that made a switch, because they wanted that to protect the people. So then that was moving on the inside. So I'm just throwing that out there. I get what you're doing. I would love to, it makes sense.
Mhm.
Private, public space, but.
Right, and I would say protecting, you know, like the kids on the path and things like that, and that makes sense too. But just a thought, because as it connects up there on the north side of Cheshire, you know, it's kind of, I would think that would be hopefully a multi-use path eventually down the road. So,
Well, yeah, but does it go across the overpass, once the overpass happens? You know, so right now, we're terminating at the right of way.
So, and if not, then like they were saying, maybe make that loop around.
Yeah, but if we have, this will come off at a 90.
Mhm.
That's 10, my guess is something back here would be 6, so it's gonna look different
Right,
enough, and they won't say keep out.
for sure. But I was just thinking about the fencing on this side. That was one of my questions, is how that was differentiated. And especially because that's 55 miles unmarked. Drive it every day. And it's a fast road, and people go that fast. So I do understand keeping people protected and the kids protected, especially in that area. And I believe if I can read the resolution the way it's written, what they were talking about, the open space viewing, is that they want, it's not just the easements or the natural topography, it's like your open space within your area too. So them being able to view the pond. So that middle section is kind of, you've got all these houses stuck in the middle that can't see anything but houses. So I think that was the only kind of my thought as to why regional planning might have said something about an open space in the middle. Like Jasper said, I can't foresee you taking out a lot in the middle to create some sort of open space that would make sense. I like Jasper's idea of, using that back corner as another seating area so you aren't pushing people to the front. And just, I guess, having some benches and maybe a little, if there's enough space around the basins that, or they look pretty enough that, near the walking path, having some places for people to sit down and kind of overlook the ponds. And
Yeah, some additional little seating area.
because I don't know if they will have fish in them.
There will be, whether we stock them or not.
Yes, so I know a lot of kids in the neighborhoods up north where we live, fish those ponds, so just nice to have little benches for people to put their stuff on and sit
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
and hang out.
Um,
But I really do like the new design for the CBUs. I think that is a great idea, and especially having the emergency access, buffered off to make sure that cars aren't going in and out of there, but it's a good stop for people to not block the roads, especially with this small street corner. Railroad buffer was the other thing I had. And I think the other thing was, I just did a miscalculation on the open space, but you clarified that for me. So.
For first. I did.
And also the 20,000 square foot is in 1.85 unless it has a PRD overlay. It's a minimum of.
Is that what it is? Okay. Yeah. Trying to figure that out, sitting there going, I don't know where it's
Like, I don't know what so that's what it is. If it's R185, it has to be 20,000 square feet or less, unless it's PRD overlay. And that is the 10.
Yeah. So no, good comments, and just a little bit on the architecture too. This may or may not be self-developed. I've sent every person in town to the owner. My guess is this is a combination of builders or custom or all the above, because this isn't a home builder that's going to buy this whole thing, more than likely. So that's why you see not specific details in there, but this is the language that we've used on all the stuff as far as porches, materials, that kind of stuff, that I can give you as much comfort as I can without knowing that this is going to be in line. Are they gone? They might want to be here.
And are we on this will be a two-step.
Okay.
This was the last two steps.
The last two step, okay. So we will be seeing the landscaping plan.
Yeah, I think we made a commitment. We've already made commitments in the text, because I've been beat up a lot by Mr. O'Brien as well, that the landscape is shown on the plan shall be the minimum that's required on the final development plan we have. Also, the minimum sizes called out and all that stuff. So we'll come back it's the same amount or
Is
more.
there is, specific, under the PRD, there's specific trees that they ask for, street trees, that's all I was curious about.
There's a street tree list now?
And yeah, under PRD.
A new one? Is it that your new car? This is on the old one. We thought the record changed. Because there wasn't anything in the old one. We've had asked Kathy numerous times over the years if there's a street tree list. There is.
It's not a list, but it's a deciduous broadleaf,
Street trees.
but it's just not, it wasn't listed. It just says like shade tree or something, so, or street tree, it's just listed as street tree, so that's why. And then where is the wildflower grass meadow?
I don't know. Where's the wildflower grass meadow, Sarah?
Basically, the whole left side where it's under the power easement.
Oh, yeah, so you don't have to look.
Obviously, if we're making that a more usable space, that would change. But yeah, a lot of that is
So
just,
I definitely would like to see that called out because, if it becomes like a no-mow or a wildflower grass meadow can look very unkept very quickly. So I don't know if they're trying to do that to not have to maintain something like that, or, you know, what that looks like, just making sure that that's called out
Okay.
more particularly. That doesn't.
Yeah, if we have a pathway through there, we'd probably establish a mow area that's, 10 feet off each side of it, so you don't have that stuff right next to you.
Tara, do you have anything else?
Just says meadow grasses, so I just.
And we'll clarify the grasses.
Angela, you want to go?
Sure. Most of what I have has already been said, so I won't repeat it. I would, going along with what Jasper and Tara have mentioned, I think you could actually, in order to, even if you wanted to pull it between the houses, I'm not loving the pulling between houses, but if you're going to cul-de-sac, what I would say is that back mound where it's going up to house, like today, glasses, 23, lot 23. If you were to pull that one back some, so that then, yeah, so if you pulled that one back some and the one along the railroad, you kind of brought back in, I think that's where you could kind of loop maybe the trail back in that you do. That was my biggest note, is honestly just wanting to see that usable somehow. And bring in some, usability somewhere there, because it did feel that everything was very, very front heavy. Love the idea of some more benches being in there. With, if you're putting in some more benches and some more walkways, I'm okay with that extra house being in there. Because I don't know that there's one house that makes sense to pull that, like,
I mean, could
it's
we,
the one house. literally,
could we
yeah.
still activate, because that's a pretty big
Yeah.
area, if we activated
It
that and
is,
had a
yeah.
pathway come.
Yeah, but what I also want to make sure is that those lots that at the back, like, if you're buying lots 28, 27, 26, 25, you're getting really nice, big, you don't technically own that land, right? But now you have a park immediately behind.
Yeah, and they have big
So-
lots too, we made those.
Yeah, they have big lots, so I would like to keep the integrity of those lots being created and instead just create a pathway. And even if you were to break that, that mound into two separate pieces.
Yeah, kind of cut through.
Yeah, move around so that it's not really disrupting. I can see people having like nice patios or decks or a pool out there. Now all of a sudden there's but they can't do that because there's a path there. Does that make sense? Now they no privacy. So, when it comes to the fence, I don't know that you actually need to bring the fence around the back of the top lot and behind those, because you already have the mound there where where you have the fence going. along the side. You have that mound already that's going along the side of house one.
Mhm.
And then behind 2 and 4 and 5 and 6. I honestly, if you wanted to have, I don't know that you need to have a fence there at all. I think that that's added maintenance down the road for an HOA. And if anything, it's, easier for those, if there's kids in those houses to pop over the top lot, now they have to go out to the street and walk, they can't just walk through the backyard. And it's not like it's going to prevent people, the mountain is gonna prevent people already from going to those people's yards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So I didn't really think that you needed that there. I do love the idea of the multi-use path being on the outside of the fence, so it's kind of ironic that the trustees across the road put it on the inside.
I can flip it out there and just switch it back later.
I mean,
They made it work. I don't know.
because the way, the purpose of the multi-use path overall was to connect the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And so that people could go through the neighborhoods, because we don't have a trail system. And so that multi-use paths is going to be our trail system for Berlin. But if they're jogging in and out of neighborhoods, that's different, because then you feel like you're riding in a neighborhood where it would be a sidewalk. So I would love to see that on the outside, but we'll see. Yeah. I would personally like to see some type of trees behind those houses that are specifically backing up to the parking lot. I don't even think they need to be tall trees. I'm just thinking more, and this could be from the builder. So what I've seen before too is that the builder offers, a credit towards landscaping packages for those houses, that they have more shrubs, arborvitae, things like that. Put in just strictly from the light pollution that can happen, granted, I don't know that there's really going to be people pulling into that parking lot at night, but it could be early morning. I don't know what that would look like, what different holidays look like for them, for the temple. So, but I think just from I would recommend that something be put along back there. Don't need to be fenced again. Something that just gives some type of separation.
Yeah, and just, listening to everybody talk and what the code says about the parking area, it's like, yeah, do we go ahead and do the shade trees of 40 feet on center? That defines the area.
Yeah.
And then I think by default, we probably almost have a small mound anyway, so we would do a 3-foot something.
Yeah.
There, edges
And it
across.
doesn't need, and again, I don't think it needs to be across the entire thing. I really just the parking lot area. So they also don't feel like people are looking directly into the back.
Yeah,
There's sliding glass doors and things, so.
I just have to make sure that it works with our storm. I don't know if 3-foot mound. Yeah, the 3-foot. Now I know we discussed a 6-foot mound. It's like that can't work.
No. And I don't even know that there needs to be a mound there, just as the delineation of
Yeah,
some
but
trees.
a 3-foot mound, like you said.
Yeah, some pine trees, something, just to
So
show the
would you
separation.
rather see evergreen trees than the shade trees?
I think evergreen trees are honestly nicer, and then if you do have this, they'll last all season long, or all year long, versus trees that are going to lose their leaves. And they'll get larger with time, so they'll create more coverage, throughout, over the years.
And then concentrate those more at the.
More in the parking lot area, yeah.
And they help, because if you think about it, it's darker earlier in the winter, you're more likely to
Exactly.
have light issues in the winter.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
At 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lighting from, I don't know what the lighting is like from the temple.
Yeah, I don't know if they have parking lot lights or not, but they will have vehicles, have headlights. So.
Yeah.
But even lighting on the building, which
Yeah.
is right within that same line of sight.
Okay. Well, it all makes sense.
I do love the sign, but it's different. I love that it's different. So is Berlin, but it's okay. At least the sign is different, so. Do we know what type of, if there's gonna be some type of light on the sign, or?
It would be concealed, sign lights, so
Okay.
they'd be ground mounted.
Yeah.
And just shine over like low voltage landscape type of light.
Alright. I mean, everything else was, I like the stone that was going to go around the ponds. So that way, even when the water is low, it'll go, so that it'll look nicer. That was really all that, like I said, all that I had wasn't already said, so.
You're up.
I'm up, all right, batter up. So I look at your pond sizes, right, they're all there, your hard surface is way too much in that area. Your runoff is from streets and parking lots and rooftops. So now all of a sudden, because you have so much density in there, you have to deal with water. Today, that land is okay when it rains, it gets wet, it gets cooling, but it was farmed for years. So I don't like the divergency to that many lots, so I'm not supportive of all. I'd rather see it to be 50 homes at the max. When I looked at the traffic study, and I think it's poorly done right now, it's not even supposed to be. And you're gonna have 90 homes, 89, 90, 2+ cars per house coming through there. 200 cars coming in and out of there a day. And you now have 3 schools, you have to be, high school, elementary school, and middle school. So, I mean, that's gonna be, Hyatt's gonna be just devastating cars here. And now we're gonna add another 200 cars to the mix. That's gonna be, no way. And I don't know if you can't take one of those northern lots and get another, take 2 lots out and make an exit into Cheshire.
That can't hold it.
Yeah, I mean, that is way
It's
too
in my
much.
location. It's in my location.
I don't know how you can manage, I mean, especially when school's starting. You look at the traffic now compared to the midsummer, it's much,
Yeah, I think our traffic study's been approved, is it not?
it's not done. I did some of the math.
Michael wasn't approved, I need to talk to him.
Yeah.
But, he's the guy that's in charge, so.
And
He
that's,
looked at it and they agreed that they're making us.
that's how many cars you get per house. Yeah, I don't like the density, that's my biggest concern.
So 1.85 in the comprehensive plan, you don't agree with that?
No, I mean, it's a divergency away from what it should be, what it is.
So
I,
I'd get rid of a half a lot and be at it. Okay, all right, got it.
Ray, how about you?
A few things to ask. Concerned about the drainage, it's listed in there, where it says that some off-site easements are gonna have to be obtained. Can you respond to that?
I cannot. The guy sitting right next to you can. Right there, that's
I
our.
looked at it.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
This is in the RTC. Township says it's a DCEO. Okay, in their letter, the adequate drainage out must be identified from all site drainage easements to be established in a court prior to final approval.
It's the same language and all of it.
Well, that you're gonna have to get off-site. And that word,
Say my address,
Sure.
official, Matt Gerken with Terrain Evolution, engineer, 7886 Wayside Avenue, Delaware. I think that's standard language from the county stating at this stage, we're just kind of looking at general feasibility. If it requires it, you'll need an offsite drainage. We've looked at it and we don't believe there will need to be. There's a drainage outlet in the northeast corner out towards the roundabout. And in the southeast corner, there's actually a drainage easement on the Temple property that extends to the property line that will be connected or will be out. There's no offsite drainage required.
well, that's why I was wondering if
Yeah.
this was in there.
Yeah.
Since that area had been done on the, ditching improvement a couple of years ago. And I was wondering how this was going to impact the rooftops and when they're saying you're gonna have to establish something off-site. So,
This design will meet the county requirements. Okay. Without an offsite.
all right. Think about that. Another question. On the survey that may not be yours, I don't know, Todd, someone, which was in 2016. There's a whole lot of stuff on here that says it's unable to plot. And there's easements mentioned, like telecommunications, and some other stuff that says you're unable to plot. Has that been rectified? Because if not, that could affect your design.
The terrain evolution actually went through and back checked those easements through county records and plotted those on the plan.
What you submitted says it's not plotted.
That's the boundary description.
Then I think you need to update that somewhere.
Well, the boundary description, Ray, only describes the property's boundaries. It doesn't say anything else about what's on the side. And that's what we use that for, was the boundary description. So that's what the code asks for, the boundary description.
I see. Okay. Well, it doesn't look very clear. in your submission. On here, most drawings of the tab. Six, 10, 5. You have something shown, I don't know whether it's still on. You have an emergency pedestrian path shown between
On the south.
houses on the south.
Yes, that's I was,
And what I want to know is, how are you gonna permanently eliminate that if that's going to be? And I'm talking about something like water. Fence. We've had a tremendous problem with one of those elsewhere in the township. And we do not want to see that.
Yeah, so you pulled out a plan that was in the traffic study that was submitted before we finalized anything. What the county was looking for at this point in time was the location of the curb cut and the amounts of the lots so they can actually do a traffic study, which just shows the curb cut in the exact same location our final plan does. Emergency access was deemed infeasible there because the county recommended that we come out onto the Pike Road.
Okay.
So that plan is purely to show the county that it's 90 or 89 units, whatever it is. Here's our entry point, what improvements we need to have. That wasn't our application as far as any development plan that was submitted to the township for consideration. Other than that.
Yeah. I guess other than what others have said, that's it. I think some of that stuff can be cleaned up in your submittal because it is confusing to leave that stuff in at that rate. Because obviously we're brought up with what the questions here. So,
Yeah, well,
the other thing is, are you doing any secondary setbacks in this development?
no.
Okay. Can you clearly state that in there? That there are no secondary setbacks? Because that comes up and is usually a problem for the zoning inspector and permits.
And does that relate back to accessory uses like that kind of stuff?
Accessory,
Yeah.
buildings, swimming pools, et cetera, et cetera. And if there are no secondary setback, then they're good.
Right, yeah, no,
And
we're
so
certified by that.
we want that in language in there.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So Ray, does that mean that no one in this neighborhood would be able to apply for a pool?
Correct.
That means every subdivision that has ever been done doesn't do that because we've never called it out.
There's a whole list of subdivisions that's maintained in the zoning office, ones that do and do not have secondary setbacks. You know, whether that issue with that. It's just to clarify, so whatever you're doing, so it's clarified.
Can I have another clarifying question?
Sure.
I saw in there, it was either the fire department or in the traffic study, I think it was the fire department required a 2-lane out, 1 lane in
Correct, they want a 3-lane section.
Is that,
That has been, rectified, this is the new plan to the
Yeah,
fire department, they wrote a new letter, which I think.
Well, just to clarify, the county engineer requires all entry roads to be 36 foot wide to a certain distance of the first intersection, which will provide for 3 lanes, 2 out, 1 in. That's their general requirement, because even when the fire department doesn't ask for it, a lot of times they'll have to put it in there. So the county always requires that.
okay, I just want to make sure, 'cause
So yeah,
just based on the drawings and stuff, I didn't see it.
All right, ready then? And I know you don't have it over yet. Do you have price points, square footage in mind?
I'm pretty sure that we'll start probably in the 2,500 square foot range and go up from there, but I want to clarify for sure. So we can deal with that with any revised text or anything like that, some of this stuff. So, yeah,
We typically require 25% side load garages. Is that been factored into?
there's no
this?
problem with that, yeah, we're committed to that in the text.
And do you plan to have phasing or? Is
Yeah,
this
2
all-
phases.
I like the idea about some kind of a pathway behind there. Realize you've got electrifying easements, so what do they, are they don't own it?
They don't let trees in it,
Asphalt.
but they'll let us do pathways.
Okay, okay.
They'll let us do pathways.
And what they said about protecting those lots, 28, 27 and on, that can be curved around, and then there's kind of a gap in between 28 and 29, 30. Seems like that would work, and hopefully not be too onerous for you guys.
Yeah, no, I think, it's simple as coming through, either through here or here, but like Angela said, we can break through the mountain somewhere in here, and then we could loop up back to here, so it's not always in their power line. And then, so, I mean, we've got, world's always through.
I mean, that's, I think, a nice continuity, honestly. So many of our pathways, as you know, don't have that, so it's, I think it's
Yeah.
But once again, I would say you've got that little tiny bit of green space, it's probably not all that little and tiny. But if there's some way to use that so that it can be purposeful for six living there, I like that idea. I realize you're saying that folks on that 33 through 41 probably will find being in proximity to the temple as a good thing. I understand that. I'm not sure I would want to see that parking lot. So whatever, I think everything in considerations. To
Yeah.
protect both sides, honestly. I like the sign, I can't unsee the topography, I wish you hadn't said that. But it's creative and it's really a lot. So, we do have a letter that came from the temple, looks like your lawyer doesn't anymore, and I need to add that to the record. Lisa, do I have to read that, or I just?
You have to read it.
I see there's a representative from the temple, you guys are trying to have, speak, so we will turn that over to you. But essentially, this letter does dialogue about the fact that the temple is a religious entity and that there are rights inherent in that existence, and an understanding of, people who live there will be experiencing that, so I'll get to that. Anything else from the commission before we turn this over to our audience? Jared, how about you? Okay. All right, well, sir, you look like you've got things to say. If you would please give us your name, address, and then your comments.
Yes, good evening. My name is Desmond Hallmore, 3664 Hickory Rock Drive, Ohio. I am legal counsel to Sri Swara Temple, Ohio, and the author of the letter that you received today. This is definitely a lot of good information that we've heard tonight from Mr. Ferris. We are still gathering comments from the DOT to the temple, so you know what their opinions are on this plan. But one thing that's been made clear, despite the fact that we're very interested in working with the developer, there's no, at this time, there's no outright objection to this, development or rezoning into a residential area. But they definitely want to have some input on buffer screening and issues with noise. And the primary issue, the reason why I sent you that letter, is
the whole issue of sound and the religious ceremonies that are conducted at the temple. And I know it was said earlier that people will see the temple and know what they're getting into, but the reality of it is you really don't know what you're getting into if you sometimes get into it. It's one thing to see the temple, but to spend some time, and similar to me when I moved to a home on Home Road, I knew it was Home Road, I knew what I was going to expect. I thought I knew what I was going to expect. And then once you live along Home Road, you say, well, that's not what I was expecting, but you learn to live with it. We don't necessarily want people to learn to live with something. We would like to kind of be proactive and work with the developer to find out exactly what can be done to make sure, number one, that there are not people purchasing this property with an understanding that this is a quiet temple, and that there are ceremonies. There are religious ceremonies. There will be festivals, things at the site. And, as being an attorney, kind of think through this process of, well, how do you address this to make sure that you're not getting complaints? There's an increase in density right next to this property, and how do you stop complaints from coming in? Or at least if you can't stop the complaints, how do you address them in advance of development so that everyone is well aware? And my initial thoughts in doing that, something we want to work with developers before we get their commitment to agree to something along this line is, covenants running with the land. That this is the only way to make sure that any requirements that are in the development process actually get passed on to these folks who are actually buying these lots. They have those covenants that run with the land. An easement is probably the most common covenant running with the land. And if you're not familiar with sound easements, there are certainly easements that can be drafted for neighboring properties that permit an institution such as a temple from conducting their ceremonies and having an easement written up such that these property owners, when they buy the property, know that they're agreeing that there's going to be some sound coming from this location. That's an easement. Then of course there's the restricted covenants, which goes the opposite way. There was a good point mentioned earlier by one of the members that the temple, while they're conducting the religious ceremonies, they don't want someone over there turning up the radio and blasting DC at 10 while they're trying to worship. So I think there's ways to address that as well. In order to let people know before they buy this property, or as they're buying it, and receive these covenants, that yes, this is my neighbor, this is what they're all about, this is what I should expect to see, and here's what I should not be doing when they're in the midst of prayer or a worship ceremony, especially when they're that close to the edge of the property. Other than that, there's some good comments about the evergreen trees, offering lighting. Just to answer some of your questions, there is lighting at the temple. They're in the middle of constructing the main temple itself. There will certainly be lighting onto the temple. Just to let Mr. Ferris and his team know, the temple went through a process when they were getting approvals for the temple to exceed the height variances. So it's, there's some height there, so people should expect to see a very gorgeous, ornate Hindu temple, and there's going to be lights up there as well. So we want to make sure that that's well known. But to the point, if they're open to discussions and sitting down and with the temple representatives, figure out what can be arranged with there, I'm certain there'd be support from the temple to work with them on the abutting buffer screen and what have you. And as far as my letter is concerned, the religious ceremonies, I have representatives of the temple here with me tonight. We have Ramakrishna, the priest, who oversees many of the religious ceremonies. So if anyone has any questions about what to expect from festivals, or frequency, or sound, or anything like that, Ramakrishna is here to answer any questions you might have. And certainly, Mr. Ferris, we can meet offline and talk about some of these issues as we move forward.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak or give comments? Right group, we'd love to hear from you. Yes, sir, go ahead.
So I represent Board of Trustees Chairperson for Temple.
And your name, please.
My name is Ravi Namudi, and I'm here to just represent my company and along with the Township together. And we already expressed our concerns to address correctly to the Zoning Commission through our lawyer, Desmond. We agree with his comments and his representation to our temple. And we have the same concerns what Desmond expressed. And it's a big temple actually. We moved from a temporary location to this temple because of privacy issues. And it's a 26 acres property and there's another new part of the existing temple. As you mentioned, the temple is going to be from 60 feet out of boulders. And we will be seen at least 10 miles, maybe less than half mile at least. And so there shouldn't be any kind of issues for next door property, because that's the reason why we bought 26 acres of land. So I just want to mention these are our concerns, and obviously I can explain about our events, how we celebrate outside, and what are the frequency of those events, and how we celebrate lightings and processions and music.
Sir, could you, can I get your name? Did you sign in?
I'm sorry.
Okay, it's Ravi.
Ravi.
Oh, how's that spelled? L-A?
R-A-V-I.
Oh, that's right. Okay. If you could sign in, that would be great. Thank you. Do you need his address? Sure. What's your address? And if you could sign it in also, Ravi.
Oh, this is my license actually.
Oh, well, or you can just sign. You just want to go sign in over there. That's fine. Thank you. I just want to make sure I spell your name right.
My name is Ramakrishna Narayana. I'm the priest of the temple. So we have started like 6 years ago. We moved to this area. So when we initiated and then when we started our process, we were used to gather 500 to 600 people. Last July, we had a big program, then yearly program. During that time, around 2000 to 2005 people have come. And then that is nowadays we congregate inside the temple. Especially these procession times, we go entire property around the parking lot and those lots. Especially for now, can you go and find the place? Sure. So presently, around 2,000 to 2,500 people have congregated in this area. Now, next 3-4 years, we are going to have the big temple, around 65 to 68 feet high, and then that will be visible all around, and then all over the lights is going to come, and then that's the monumental temple, and then it's going to be a pilgrimage for the entire country. That's a unique temple actually. So, and also in our master plan, especially, we are going to have the parking lot here also expansion. That is main thing. So, I mean, we are not against to these people, but they should be aware of that. So we are going to have these programs and then this, that. Then they should be, I mean, they should not surprise in future. That's the main intention of this meeting. These people are our great devotees too, but still want to, no surprises, that's all. Okay, thank you.
Where will the date?
Pardon?
Where will the date?
Oh, it will be, here is the present temple. Then we already started the construction actually, so it's huge one. It's upfront. So especially for this temple, this parking, then for this temple, this will be the master planning parking. So this will be distraction for especially these people, these 6-7 houses maybe. That's the main concern. Thank you.
Sir, did you sign, it's Rami, did you sign in? Could you sign with your name and address? Thank you.
Ramakrishna.
Ramakrishna. The footprint of the temple is now currently in place, that's 7 mountain.
It's good to know there will be additional parking lot, that does sort of change, I think, maybe the screening metric consideration.
How many members are going to the
Daily basis.
On daily basis, around 100 devotees, less than 100 devotees.
And what do you think your maximum could be, 500-600 maybe? Or no?
Roughly daily or
No, I mean.
at any given time?
At any time, one.
Maybe around 3 to 400.
Okay.
Roughly.
Weekends will be working.
But as I think the priest mentioned, we're all part of the same community, right? And so, my name is Sanjay Bhatt, BHATT, 2929 Kenny Road, Suite 280, Columbus 43221, council for the Seven Hills of Berlin. I was actually involved in the purchase of this land by the temple, and so look forward to working with them. I mean, I think the goal is the same, is to make sure, I think that's, as Todd mentioned, that the people are going to buy those parcels with the full understanding that they have a temple view. But at the same time, you know, obviously know Desmond as well, and so we're working with them and we'll figure out a plan to address those issues and concerns that were raised.
Appreciate that. Are there other audience members who would like to say anything? I'm sorry. We have one.
My name is Mohan Basra. I'm a construction chair for the AC Temple. I would like to reiterate the same thing what Mr. Desmond mentioned. You guys can summarize what everyone would like to see, and we would like to work with next door neighbor, but at the same time, we like to make sure some of these technical concerns are addressed.
I'm sorry, sir, what was your name again?
Mohan, M-O-H-A-N.
Okay. Could you sign with your name and address, and I'll get it later, okay?
Okay.
Thank you all.
So we will conclude then our audience comments. So our applicant is your intention to seek a vote tonight.
Probably not.
Okay.
I didn't see a whole lot of nods, yes. There's a few things on the plan that I think, you know, pathways and things like that. We'll get you some semblance of architecture standards, so there's some clarity there. And then we'll meet with the temple folks and start working something out on that as an agreement for the noise and stuff. We'll deal with the buffer. I think that's the land use issue here, because all that other stuff I think is beyond what the township actually really deals with. But we'll get those conversations started. Sounds like they already are. So no, I look forward to working with the group. I've getting more and more involved with the Indian community every day. It seems like you're something from the church.
We'll get you there.
We do appreciate the fact that you did work hard to avoid as many divergences as you can.
Okay.
So this is very happy for us to look forward to hearing your updates. Do you want to schedule a time now?
Yeah, because my guess is you guys are so booked up right now, I need to get on your calendar.
We're so booked up.
Yeah, I know you do.
Kathy said any day but September 24th, and she said wide open.
Yeah, we're really.
Oh, really? I figured you guys would be just
We're not
swamped.
slammed right now. We might be coming, but we're not.
I would
Oh,
like,
sorry. Todd, may I interrupt you? I said she wants to rely.
I was just kind of thinking about that path that kind of cuts behind to that cul-de-sac, that, it truly, if there is an established relationship between the two areas, that, I know that the traffic study did have that original path between the houses there, but thinking about that back, mounding where that ends, if you can even connect that cul-de-sac on the backside somehow to the, I don't know what that little square is in the back end, but if that is a way to connect the neighborhood to the, temple in some way.
I think it's a great idea. The reason it got pulled off of the plan is because it requires their commitment on their side too. But now that the
Yeah, I was just thinking
dialogue
it's
established,
within
that we can at least extend the olive branch of taking it to there. And if they want to go farther, then they go farther. But no, I think it's a great idea. That's why we had it to begin with. The emergency access became problematic.
Correct.
Lots of reasons that's pointed out.
Yeah, and I think along those lines, I know you're saying those back lots may target people that want to live there. You may also have other people that live more in the front of the neighborhood, the same idea. Proximity to the temple. I'd hate to, because you know what's gonna happen in the neighborhood. I hate to see people start cutting through our lots are right there, we like it, and now we have people coming through to get to the temple.
Yeah.
And it becomes an issue. to get
That'll give them
in the
here
neighborhood. Yeah.
and here.
So, and just that kind of conversation and working through that, just to kind of make sure you don't have, not only is it maybe amenable to them, but then you have to deal with, are there others in the neighborhood that make it less amenable without them knowing it after the fact? So just that kind of other traffic besides just those back few lots may be interested in the proximity to the temple too. So.
Yeah. My guess is most of these issues, I think, are quickly resolved. It's communication and getting an understanding with the temple. So from that standpoint, I would probably look at least a month for me to get stuff back to you.
Okay.
And you guys want it 2 weeks in advance?
Yeah, we like to have some time to review it.
Right.
So what do you think about October 8th?
What do you think about October 8th?
It would be October 8th or the 22nd.
Okay, you can do that.
Which one do you feel better about?
October 8th in which state?
Or the 22nd, October 8th or October 22nd? Those are the two
Since I'm off the 14th through the.
See, that's why I'm asking her. Hey,
Yes.
we'll do the 8th.
Okay, okay. Go ahead and pencil it in here now. Yeah.
Words of advice. Do you want me to move the fence and worry about it later?
See, it seems like we are in agreement amongst ourselves, but honestly, you're gonna have to talk to the trustees.
They're the ones that pushed it. So.
Right, so I think knowing what you know about what they asked of you previously, I would maybe go with that.
I mean, that's why 90% of the stuff's on there anyways, because.
All right.
So they're gonna, if we have you move it and then they have to make you move it
Make
back,
it
it
back,
just doesn't
it's
make sense.
silly, so.
Can you make recommendations with your motion when you do the final one, to say that you would like to see that, and if they agree?
We can always.
Because I don't know how else to get it.
Sure.
If they read it, is it, well, they'll read it, I know they read it.
Right,
Yeah.
so I would say use your best judgment knowing what they've asked previously.
We'll leave it where it is, so you guys can make
And,
suggestions.
yeah, we may have things to say, but always have things to
But I
say.
think especially with the temple being on that side of the road, just because the right or the east side of the road has all those houses that are just single family homes, it may not be, going down Hyatt, but the elementary school being on this side of the road, the temple being on this side of the road, that maybe eventually a path going all the way down Hyatt would, on the outside, might be more feasible, but.
That is your multi-use path.
Yeah.
Anyway, because the county makes us put them in easements, they don't let them in the right away.
Right.
So that is yours. It just happens to be behind the fence.
All right, well, then we will count on seeing you October 8th. If you can get updates to us a couple weeks ahead, Kathy needs to prepare them, and then we need to pick them up. So that's extremely helpful. Not taking time to review them, it's accountability for us. All righty, I think that concludes this application. Do we need to make a motion? Yes, we need to make a motion to table for a time certain. So, go for it.
I've got a concern here. Are you guys available to meet in the next week or so?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay. All right, so we're
gonna make a motion to table and move to time and date certain of October 8th at 7 p.m. For BZC 24-006, 7 Hills of Berlin LLC.
Ms. Brown, Ms. Shields? Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Gosha?
Yes.
Mr. DeChristopher?
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan?
yes. All right. That concludes that application. application hearing. And I appreciate the audience members being here. I like this neighborly vibe. This is
Yes.
wonderful. I love
We
it.
always have this.
We don't. So I hope that continues and is successful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
So if you guys were still having our meetings, so if you want to stay for that, you're most welcome. Otherwise, if you want to be quietly, that's also. Do we have business? Our assistant zoning director.
I just want, in the last month, we've made a lot of progress in the community cleanup. And I'll cite a couple of over by the original on Shanahan, where there was some property with a bunch of cars and that Lowe's truck that's been there for state. So we had to 20 years it's been there, so we felt good about it. That's been taken care of in most of the Shire area. We just keep working on that, and it's one step at a time.
I love that persistence, because I know it just sort of languished for years.
Oh, and the other thing that happened today was they got rid of the forklift. It was on Dale Ford Road, it's been there for a long time too. So a lot of that's, they had a forklift and a jump car and other things, and that's all been cleaned up.
I'm the resident of the Mill Meadows across, the resident of the Mill Meadows across the. So the fence, our fence is half fenced, like, they dig only half part. And I like the part where the road part is fenced because the kids play in the ground, the balls can go. We are asking them to fence it the whole field like the open space, and we're not getting any positive response. Like people walking or kids walking on the park or anything. Or if they're staying in the ground in the park, you don't want them to go to the, the wall or something and then try to go to the plant. So we are asking for a fence, the whole, that part to be fenced, the road till the end of the lot. But I think we're not getting the part. I don't know, if it is being fenced the whole till end, that's good for us.
Okay, you're talking about the Seven Hills?
No, and then I like the seven hills how it's so fenced.
Oh,
So the other side, it's not being fenced for us.
I was saying behind the houses that actually goes up.
In the Meadows,
Yes, it's not.
towards the road.
Yes,
So there's only entrance of half part is fenced.
yeah.
So the rest of the part which opens to the road like that, I think that's not fenced.
You would like, I think he's,
Yeah.
so that we already heard the zoning, you don't have any purview over that. So you would have to go through, I'm not sure what stage they're in, but you would have to.
They're mostly, I mean, they should be
I
trying to.
thought they were in their last.
They are.
So that would be either if they turn it over to the HOA, the home association, or if that is not turned over to the HOA, you would have to speak with the builder. So we cannot mandate that. It's already been approved.
We spoke to the builder, but then I'm not getting any response. Still, they're in there.
If they're close to turning it over to the HOA, they're probably waiting to leave it to the HOA.
Yeah.
Which would explain why you're not getting responses. And that's, but again, that's not, we can't really.
No, they didn't tell you the residents it for it, they have their own, correctly, they're managing it. Okay, once the residents, everyone comes in, they will do it.
Exactly, once they're a certain percentage over, they turn it over to the HOA for the community, but right now, the village still has it, and it's probably getting pretty close, because when I just drove by the other day, I was like, whoa, looks like almost every house in there is built now, so they're probably pretty close, so I would say, just keep with the builder on what's the date that it's getting turned over to the HOA, that it's getting turned over to a management company, or however they're gonna get it, and then start discussions with them, and that's how you'll get it.
So then the HOA should manage.
The HOA, yeah.
Because at some point, they want somebody to pay for it, and.
But then the business says no.
Well, that'll be the HOA paying
So it'll be the homeowners association, so it'll be, your community will get to decide on it.
So, all owners pay for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
for
so.
it. Part of your HOA fees.
That's the cost on the homeowner, then the biggest should do that, that's the.
Yes, talk to your neighbors.
The biggest should do that, the biggest, that's putting so much
court in downstairs.
Right.
There's
There
no
are
any
areas
office.
without trespassing.
There's a bunch of, you can build a house in the
Or not.
Well, talk to your neighbors, be active in your HOA,
Yes, yeah.
and good luck, because yeah, it's, yeah.
Going to the road, going to the road, you said?
I'm sorry, Jerry, you disrupted you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, I just want to say that, and the other thing, major thing going on, iWorkQ, they're signing an additional contract to get history in there, because it's been pretty successful, automating and the excitement there. It's all of the 2024 permits and permits, not just houses, but new pools and decks and all that is all in there. And somebody's wife does an excellent job. I'm not telling Keith, but the extra help is help. And like I said, with the iWorkQ, now we're working at getting a financial package so that they can start doing all these online permits.
Yeah,
That's what keeps me busy.
that's a good update. All right. Anything else? That's it. You got an office ball for the first time in history, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have one more opening for that.
Yes.
I think, yes, you're being very selective with that. That's the township administrator position is what they're.
Are we doing anything with the, is there 3 black lots that people don't live in anymore, or okay? So 3 there?
Well, there's a little, I hate to say this, there's a lot more than 3, but there are 3 that I submitted to the trustees for them to take next steps with the county prosecutor and all that for, you call it abandonment, but yeah, there's, so you guys know, everybody, there's one on Old State Lackey. There's 2 houses on 36, 37 that have a little, for the kids, school thing in front of it. I've heard that's 108 acres, and I heard this week that it's up for sale, 108 acres. So that should take care of that one. And then the third one is over on Berlin Station. It's been, the roof's falling in and stuff, and they're all, the fire department supported us to say, we won't go in if there's a fire. So that next step is for the trustees to 505.
You called about the one on Old State.
I'm sorry?
I think, Jake called about the one on Old State, that you put in communication with the one on Old State.
Yeah, I submitted all the paperwork to the trustees that they said needed to take the next step based on Ohio Revised Code. Sorry, I'm getting a headache for it. No, if there's a lot to do in the timing, it could be, I hate to say 6 months to a year, but then we have other abandonments since then. Those are the 3 that I was made aware by the fire department. There's others that we've recognized. Some of them, the house that was on Berlin Station that had all the stuff, drive over there. It's gorgeous. The Berlin Farms has cleaned it out. It's gone. The house is gone. All that stuff that was there for years, the owner, it's all gone. It's now Paula. So it definitely a lot of. Yeah.
And it's hard because you have to have, someone has to have defaults on their taxes. And then a period of time needs to lapse where they can pay back the taxes before anything happens.
Well, that's
So-
thank you for that. On the one on Berlin Station was in the rears taxes, like 12 years old of taxes, but it's in probate because the gentleman passed away.
So yeah, that's where it's.
So,
You can't do anything.
No, it's
It's not allowed
literally,
even on the property.
well, they tried in the last 6 years, I guess they tried to get them to sell that off and put that into the probate instead, and they were denied. So, yeah.
Well, you're fighting the good fight, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, don't forget we have some minutes to sign. There's the one from last meeting and then a couple others. There's some signatures to have a look at that. Anything else we want to discuss or shall we adjourn?
I think I'm missing a couple pages. I just put it directly into here, but I feel like I'm missing a couple pages.
It's past back, it didn't.
Yeah.
25.
No, I was like, wait a second. Yeah, 25 to get appendix printed, and it's done.
Would you let Kathy know?
Yeah.
She can print those, because I assume all of us probably have.
I meant to say something to her while she was still here, but yeah, I'm sure everyone's is the same way. Yeah.
I guess one other thing I should mention is we do not, last time I talked to Kathy, have anything scheduled on September 10th. Do we want to meet, or do we want to skip that meeting?
We won't get anything.
Also,
scheduled.
that training that, Megan said I would do by the 31st.
Oh, I did not see that.
Yeah, it should be in your email. It really is just listening to an 8-minute video. And then, I haven't been able to get the certificate. And I don't know what we're supposed to do with that. Do we bring it to Kathy?
You email it to like the trustees.
Well, you send it to the fiscal officer. Jeff will get the certificate. I did it
So yeah, I have to figure out how to where that's developed. But yes, there is a deadline of the 31st for that, so please look at your email.
If you watch the videos, there were like two little buttons at the bottom. One was like the resources.
Okay.
Not a whole lot in those links, but the other one was like your certificate. If you click on that, it'll open it.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it wasn't easy to find.
Okay, so, yes, sir.
I'm gonna make a request on behalf of the zoning inspector's office, since I guess something I was near and dear to for a few years. Some of the applications, this one included, has some gaping holes in the thing. They also have a lot of misinformation, stuff that is not complete, and the excuse of, well, it only called for the boundary, but he's still filing as part of the case, the survey. And the survey has all this stuff that says not plotted. Now, here's what happens, Jerry, if I next year have to look back at that case for something, because what they have filed is in that bad shape, and I'll say it that way. They're not gonna be able to make heads or tails of what's in there. So I would ask, as a favor to the zoning office, is that stuff, it sounds picky, but it needs to be picky.
Sure.
Okay? It's just like your question to me about the secondary setbacks. Since they're setting that up with a very short backyard is all that's required. There's not room to put a pool or a shed or anything else in the backyard. But you need to have it clearly stated, because the previous zoning inspector, I'm sorry,
Couple ago.
Thank you.
got in a whole lot of, actually 3 ago, if you want to look at it,
Yes.
Jerry. Okay, issuing stuff that was not permitted in the first place. Okay, there's actually been a couple of lawsuits over that. We don't need it anymore. So
No, we don't.
whatever you find that way, don't be afraid to challenge one, please. It's, they can back talk all they want, an applicant, but you don't want that coming through where you don't have the information in the case file.
No such thing as too much information.
Because if it's looked at 10 years from now, somebody else is looking at it. And that happened to me when I was a zoning inspector, looking back at stuff that was done 10, 15 years prior. Sometimes you can't make heads or tails out of it.
And I can reinforce what Ray said. For 3 months, I tried my best to do what I was supposed to. And only in the last month since Levi's been here have I figured out what I didn't do. Because he went over this one very thoroughly and wrote all of his responses. We went through probably 2 or 3. Of course, we've only had 6 this year in permits, but those, I didn't go through the details that he did. And
We all learn from our mistakes.
Yes.
However, if we can avoid making them.
Yeah, because
It will differentiate.
I had to
So-
redo the spreadsheet of, like Ray said, a cheat sheet for each development as the permits come in for, what is the rear setback, and then if there is a secondary one,
Yeah,
is in the column.
Checklist.
And that's like
So we
15
add that
feet
to
instead of
checklist.
8. I mean, I
I
can
didn't even
remember.
think of that. I mean, I didn't even think of that.
If they don't ask for it, it's not there.
But if they don't ask for it, it doesn't exist, so therefore those things
The
should never be
80 is-
approved.
Right.
Correct?
For the,
You can, they might be able to go to the
Appeals.
Board of Zoning Appeals and,
Sure.
and get away with it or
Right.
obtain it, but the zoning inspector is not permitted to write a permit.
So if they don't have secondary setbacks as a,
but it's only going to be, I guess, my only concern about this, so I completely understand for those lots that are backing directly up to that property line. But when you look at all of the other lots in there, so that's saying that not a single person, not a single property can have.
That's exactly correct, that's what we're saying. That is what the law says.
well, if they
It's like our
provide the
neighborhood.
secondary setbacks, then that
And they
goes,
can.
then it's not a problem. But some of those lots wouldn't be appropriate for secondary setbacks.
And that's the thing is, that's where there needs to be that, and I feel like, and this is me speaking from being both sides, right, on zoning and what I do. But what does not get communicated to people buying these properties is that those setbacks exist.
Oh, that's true.
That is
And you get
never
calls,
in there.
you get a lot of calls to the zoning office.
I'm sure people angry not knowing that.
Well,
they
and also
are
asking
doing
these-
it. Yeah,
Our lots are so small that technically to put a shed, like, there's a shed in between two houses based on the setbacks, and it's the way it is, because I'm staring at a big shed because of the way the setbacks were written in our neighborhood.
And do it.
And this is now 20 years later, and
We
but
should.
there was some things written in where it's like this lot and this, at this end, because of the way it's shaped, the way it's, written, that there's a different setback. So, it,
But the point is,
It's a little clear,
it-
not much.
if it's not there, it cannot be
Yeah, that
issued.
exists.
I know hundreds of people in this
oh, I'm
township.
sure, very angry.
Hundreds of people in this township, I have told when they come in asking about something. Pull up your lot, we'll pull it up for you, find out before you buy what
And the guy might
is
have-
permitted and what is not.
And that's,
And most people.
Yeah. and it's not even an HOA, honestly. I mean,
And HOA has
there's,
nothing to do
people,
with it.
that's the thing is that people look at the HOA to find out if pools are allowed. Buildings
What about
are
the wall
always
next
there.
Well, that's.
Exactly.
It doesn't have
That's
anything
the
to do with
problem.
the guy wanted to put a third car garage in there, because that lot's not set up for a third car garage. It's a second
Yeah.
house, and it's like, he went to, because I'm part of the HOA, and we're like, we have nothing to
Yeah,
help
to help you.
you. So they came here, and he got approved. But now he's set back, he's 3 feet from the property, which it shouldn't be allowed.
Well, he got 2
Because
feet.
now if he sets on fire, he catches the neighbor's house.
The latest one was, it varied by 2 feet, because that's the appeals. But where do you set the limit of how much?
How close is too close?
When I was there, saying, I like
Slippery
it.
slope.
A lot of
If you talk to the fire department, if they're not 25 feet apart, they're not permitted to put a firefighter in case of a house fire between.
Between those houses, yeah,
Okay, so that means burn, let it burn,
yeah,
okay? Well, you want to risk a man's life,
no,
someone's life, whatever, you want to risk somebody's life, yes.
Well, sometimes we do get things where they want the homes to be closer together, and by and large,
Oh,
the
they-
fire department has said, okay.
so where is that?
Well,
We had some.
they never did.
Oh, we have had some.
Yeah.
No,
Well, I don't like it,
Like
if the fire people
The
say,
fire
okay,
department
then I'm
is
like,
like,
you can't really.
They just go burn.
Here's another thing that's going to come up, which I've already asked Levi about and Jerry about, and that is, okay, with the new zoning code that's in effect for one step. That means all the stuff that comes in and it's
It's not
not.
vetted first.
It's not.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
If
It's
not,
not, you're gonna
you
get
can't
tabled a lot.
accept, you cannot accept that application.
Yeah.
All that stuff has to be in there from
Right.
the get-go. And of course, the zoning inspector who's the gatekeeper on that, because if it's not in there, you shouldn't resign. And,
Well, in
you know,
that case
we
also.
only get one chance at it, and it's not.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like when we have to write, 20 conditions. Personally, I'm not a fan of the one step, I've said it, everybody knows, whatever. But I'm just gonna say, we're gonna table it. I am not willing to get an incomplete application and then write a bunch of conditions, because down the road, that's impossible to follow.
And that's why I'm glad that regional planning is calling out, there is no hardship, they should be following this, because a divergence is it should be a financial hardship that they have to approve.
Yeah.
It's not a.
I agree.
Well, anyway, so, yeah, I'm not looking honestly forward to the one step, especially for some of these enormous developments. I just feel like that's really onerous on us to get everything right away, and makes me nervous.
And it has, it has to be tabled until they can straighten it out.
That's,
If there's
I'm not gonna make it
one of
happen.
the conditions is you bring it back in, here with it, you write it up. Bring the applicant do it, and not, should have fallen on the board to try to straighten it out because they couldn't complete or missing information.
Or they bring you in a packet the day of.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
no.
That's not gonna fly. Well, anyway, we'll see what happens.
Thanks, I just had to get that said because of all the stuff that's coming. And the other thing is, we need to be talking to the fire department. I don't know if Levi has, or if he was gonna ask me to go with him, but the fire department has to step up because if they're going to one step,
Right,
their letter has to be a final letter.
right, and consistent.
With it. And
Yes.
if it is not, that should be grounds for not granting it or enabling it. Because
Agree.
you can't.
Start building.
We can't.
Commercial building that only has a 3-inch main, water main, is not going to get an occupancy permit, and it's our job to see that they either get the thing done, or they don't get it. Period.
You wanna take my spot, right?
No.
He's been there, done that.
We like the wisdom.
Yes, we appreciate it. It's like I saw I knew I saw that exit below on the traffic study, and I couldn't remember where I saw it, and I wasn't asked about it. But it's things like that where they're inserting that into the case, and it's misinformation. And
It is, and that is going to create the same problem that happened right over here. In the neighborhood over there off of where it's finished, whatever it is, where it's on the map, it was approved on, it was never put in, and now it's very homeowner and place mad. And I thought it was you. But the question is, do we want to have that again? That's why I brought it up. I mean, I don't care what they do, if they want to do like down in Westerville, they put a sidewalk through there. And they put a 6-foot chain link fence on both sides of that sidewalk to the Glen Area subdivision.
Well, and we've actually.
I don't care what they do.
We've had that discussion multiple times with our.
Do it right the first time and don't create problems for the neighbor.
Right, because they're walking in our backyard, through our property, and then onto the
easement,
common area easement to that sidewalk. But we want kids to be able to do that, because we don't want them walking on a road until there's a multi-use path there. But at the same time, we now have adults walking through, and they're walking through our backyard. I mean, it's different when, and.
That's what they're gonna do here, if they've got that on this temple, is they're gonna be walking through people's backyards, and all they're gonna do now is
They should put in house out of that southern border, as a park.
That would have been great enough to do.
Well, and I have to say, I understand your concerns about the density. I'm not thrilled. I mean, it's like a 0.01 in excess, I can live with that, but, I was worried they were gonna annex, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Where were they gonna annex?
No,
Right, contiguous.
You know, after what we saw with the apartments on your house, the annexing with Sunbury, it seems to me like anything goes.
Pretty much.
So I have to say, I'm not in favor of some of these pieces of it. On the other hand, you know what, they met our criteria and they did the annex. And I just say I'm grateful, but I'm grateful.
and the biggest thing they said is, no divergence is a good divergence. And they stuck with 99%.
Yeah,
Now, my concern, 60 foot, the temple, high?
yeah, and I guess they.
How did they get that?
Because if you look at code, it says that steeples and stuff like that can go a maximum of 100 feet.
Yeah, I don't remember, they said they came to us for zoning, but
I don't remember it
I
either.
think they must have just. Yeah, they shouldn't have had to, but I thought they said they did, they must have just come into the office.
I don't remember the temple either.
Yeah.
They don't have to,
it might have come in just from a friendly neighbor percent.
Yeah, there's some in for zoning.
What's that?
Yeah, churches?
Churches, they
Religious,
come in for
yeah,
zoning,
I
they are
think-
not exempt.
They're exempt from a portion of it, or
I think the temple, the height of the spire is
No,
exactly.
this is spires, it says in there that spires for religious and stuff, they go 100 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
They
they're
didn't make you
exempt.
have to come in
Schools are exempt.
for that,
Schools are exempt.
well, we didn't hear that.
I can tell you what.
I think they have two. Although they did say that it's been since 2016, right?
Oh, and they haven't built it yet? It's not built?
No, that's when they started the whole process. I think they said it was in 2016.
I hate to say it was around, but I don't remember it.
It takes a while to get money to do it all. That's a big investment.
Okay,
Well,
guys,
the other
motion adjourned.
thing is that when he was talking about those other churches and stuff, some of those churches were built in the 1970s.
Yeah, so it had nothing to do with it. Right, that's all that church is.
That was all
We're
later.
talking about churches.
We didn't have some.
It doesn't have a, so.
Actually, you're right, we did not have some in
We
the
didn't have
1970s. That was built.
All right, guys, do we need to motion adjourn or we just adjourn? Let's adjourn. Motion adjourn.
Somebody hit the
All in favor? Okay. All right, guys, good to see you. Enjoy the heat. Hydrate.
Heat. Going back